Okay. Okay, we're going to bring the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, December 14th, 2022 back to order. Everyone please silence your electronic devices and we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Additions and deletions to the agenda since Friday mailing.
Oh, yes. So, business considerations, we have 4. 6.22 will be an agreement between CSEA. 6.23 is a donation. 6.24 and 25 is the Board of Education has denied 2 student suspensions. Personnel considerations, we have in addition to 7.14 and 7.17, we have 2 lifeguards, we have a couple of homework club additions, we have teachers that are, just an update to teacher mentors. Let's see, we have a retirement for a bus driver, we have a resignation of a building aide, and we have an informational item which will all be reflected on my minutes.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion for those additions and deletions? Mrs. Maleno, a second. Mr. Benedotti, all in favor? Aye. I need a motion for the acceptance of the minutes of the November 9th, 2022 Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Mr. Engel, a second. Mrs. Hoteling, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We've already had the Peter B. Recognition Awards. We have no hearings and petitions for this session. I need a motion for one or all of the business considerations.
I'll make a motion for all 6.1 through 6.25.
Okay, we have a second. This is Maleno. I do want to call out, we have 3 donations. 4, 6, 7, and thank
6.15 and 6.23.
6:15. Yeah, you got it. Thank John Gray, the author of, we got some books donated. We also got a donation from Tom Nicholson for flower bulbs for our A.W. Becker Elementary School. We have a donation from Sabic for our 4 school buildings holiday gift distribution. And the last donation was $500 from Diane Kempf for the student food debt at A.W. Becker. So we would like to thank all those people for their donations. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion for one or all of the personnel considerations.
I'll make a motion for all 7.1 through 7.37.
Okay, do we have a second? Mr. Benedotti, any discussion? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's pass. Let's see, 8 is usually informational items. 8.1 through 8.3 is informational items only. 9.1, I want to thank everyone for staying here. I know we were in executive session a little bit longer than usual, so I apologize for that, but thank you for staying for our meeting. And any other board members have anything they would like to discuss?
Can we just back up to 8.1 real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
I didn't know where that nature trail was that they're talking.
A.W. Becker.
Okay.
A.W. Becker.
The one that goes down in by the creek, that one?
That way, yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
there was an Eagle Scout project? That's pretty cool.
What number are we on, Teddy? Where are we?
He's on
That was
8.1 with
8.1.
the informational items, just to thank Carter Dixon on his Eagle Scout project. But now we're on 9.1, but any other board members had anything to discuss? I will turn it over to Dr. Bailey.
Thank you to the principals over the last 4 months for bringing students together to celebrate together, seeing families together, and having refreshments together. But the award ceremonies were a great way to, again, have our families back in our buildings. It seems it's still a little disorienting sometimes to see people in one place at one time, but also a great reminder of some of the targets and action plans that they're working I've been meeting with the superintendent student council since the beginning of the year. It's a group of 15 high school students in grades 9 through 12. In the spring of last year, I sent out an invitation for people to join and asked them if they wanted to just have an opportunity to give voice to their experiences here at the high school. And it has been fascinating. It's a very diverse group of people, and over the last 2 days, we've had a survey out to all the high school students, which asked them what would make your RCS high school experience better. And that committee's coming together again next week. The council's coming together, and we'll review some of the things that their peers shared. I think, I often say that the students are our first customers, their families, and the taxpayers are the second. And we do have an awesome responsibility to them. And I think the number one thing about teenagers, and it is cognitively how they're wired, is they do not always feel as though we're listening to them. And now as we are transitioning back to full normal school, coming from where they've been, especially for these students in their high school years, some of them are having firsts, high school firsts, just this year. And their experiences to get their feedback, and what we'll do is we'll strategize some things that we feel are priorities for us. We'll enlist the help of staff and the community and figure out what we can do, and elements of that survey will be shared out as well. Capital project, the board approved the capital project. We've had quite a lot of information come to the board around that. And the next steps for us are a flyer that'll go to all mailboxes last week of December, which meets a deadline, important deadline for us. It's a 2-sided card with highlights of the project, with a quick narrative, and then directs folks to our website. And the other piece is we'll be having a public information night on on January 4th, which will be held in the auditorium and will be streamed as well. And the presentation will look very much like what John Sharkey did. John Sharkey did, our bond council did, about what the debt would look like for the district and for taxpayers, and then a little bit more narrative about what we intend to do with this, with these structural improvements to the district. So about an hour. It will look a lot like what we did here for the board, allowing people who attend to ask questions if they have questions. And of course, the referendum vote is on Monday the 9th, and the hours are from 1 to 8 p.m. We've talked about facility dogs. For 2017 is when we worked with the policy committee to develop policies around facility dogs here. And the first one of our dogs arrived in June, Archie, the black lab. And I'm pleased to say that some of our staff went and viewed a couple dogs at local breeders on Friday with our training team, and we'll be adopting next week. So Peter B. and the middle school will also have dogs beginning in January. And we have a 4th dog. We're looking for an adopting staff member at Becker right now. If we can't find one, we know what our own lives are like. You have to be in the right place in your life to adopt a dog. If we can't find an adoptee at Becker, we'll place a 2nd dog in one of our other buildings. But Archie's done very well. The training team has been working with staff in all 3 buildings right now in preparation for what's coming. And it's a pretty high intense program. The staff members are meeting at least weekly, and they're doing both remote and in-person training with the dogs. So we'll be sending out a more public communication around that once the dogs are adopted. And then we'll be sending a communication out to all families next week in preparation for when we return from January. It's the same thing we did at the high school, to let people know the dog would be here so they'd be comfortable and understand why the dog's here, but also to talk about how we conduct ourselves when we're training with a dog. But the 2 dogs that are coming in are smaller than Fred's laptop. They are about 10 weeks old now. They are teeny tiny, beautiful Labradoodles. And the idea is that the sooner they're in the buildings, the sooner that they acclimate to this as their home, which is really what we're aiming to do.
How has it been received at the high school level?
The
I
student,
can't say going poorly.
the students, we try and find programs that are has the highest impact. Those students that maybe need an extra level of comfort or an extra level of companionship. And within those programs, it has been wonderful. And I think the greatest thing that we can do is increase contact, for the dogs. The dogs is their workplace, and they have work time and downtime scheduled throughout the day, and a pretty fixed schedule. And the ones that come into our other buildings will also be on a fairly fixed schedule, so they'll have contact time where they're active, and then they'll have time where they're relaxing. Each school has a handling team of 4 to 6 people, so it's not just one owner. Instead, the dog's able to work in a few areas, and they're able to hand off. But I can't say enough about the people who volunteered to do it. It is a big commitment. And if you think about it, the other people on the team are training a dog that they don't own, so it's another thing. But I think the flip side of it is the benefits of the animal being in their classrooms and helping with instruction is so impactful, and the studies show over and over again. So what we'll do as we get to the end of the year, our idea was to begin slow and have one dog in each building, see how that goes, develop our skill set, and then as we go into next year, consider the second dog in each building, and stop at that level, and monitor and see how that goes for us. It's something that we budgeted for. We have a budget line for this program, and it's important because there's supplies that we have to purchase as a component of it, and there's a cost for owning dogs as well. But I hope it's something that we continue to support budgetarily as well as we continue.
How many dogs were budgeted for?
We didn't think of it in terms of dogs. What we have is we have a contract with a company that is doing the intensive training with us. And we knew that there would be an expense. Anybody who's bought a bred dog, and the first dog was purchased through a grant that was given to us. We had to hold from 2017 because we couldn't move forward. So it isn't exactly like that. And plus, we anticipate that one of our dogs may be donated as well, so no expense will be needed.
Brian, what would happen if, for some reason, we had a very, very tough cycle and that was a program cut? What's the backup plan for those dogs if they were no longer part of a program in the school?
Well, the good news is the training becomes significantly less frequent. So it's very intensive in the first year. A therapy dog, a certified therapy dog, takes their test at about age 2. So really, for Archie, his test will be June of 2024. We'll be budgeting for 23-24 in this budget cycle, and the rest of the dogs that we'll own will be, testing the year 2 years from January. So I think even if we had a substantial cut in the funding that we have now, we set aside about $24,000 intending to be able to help with materials, training, and the purchase of dogs. Even if there was a significant reduction, we would end up not growing a program, and we would be able to continue to train. It's like it was like bi-weekly training in the first year or first 6 months, and then it goes to every 3 weeks, and then it goes to every 4 weeks, and it continues to diminish the longer that we work with a dog.
And we have veterinary costs built in, because that's got to be more expensive than the training.
We only, through an agreement with the adopters, we take care of the dogs for the first 6 months. After that, it's their responsibility.
So if anything goes awry with the program, they're their dogs, they're not our dogs.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I was
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry,
No,
that's
that was,
the other
that
thing.
was the crux of it.
Yeah, yes. And
We just want to make sure the dogs aren't left out of this.
Right.
And to be honest, the breeders that we work with, the dogs all have to be spayed and neutered, and they have right of first refusal in the event that something happens. And all the breeders we're working with, they'll take the dog back if it's not a good fit for the program. But they have right of first refusal if we need to dispose of a dog for some reason. But we're not not looking toward that end. Dispose sounds horrible.
Yeah,
word.
that's not the
Wrong
right
word.
word I would use, no.
Put up for adoption. Still sounds bad. Anyway, but they are really adopted by staff members. So You may have seen the news about change in regulations about mascots. You might have heard something. You might have seen some media sources point directly at us. It's possible as well. I wanted to let you know that what we've been promised is additional guidance from the State Education Department. The Regents Board met this week on Monday and Tuesday. They discussed it as well, which was an impetus for more articles in the newspaper that you may have seen. What we need is frequently asked questions. We need to know to what extent districts are mandated to do this. We've seen the ultimatum that's been in the initial release, which was the potential loss of state aid, which for us is $26 million a year, half of our budget, and the removal of all district leaders, which is you and me, and Sue apparently. I don't know how that happened, for failing to follow the directive. So, but like I said, we're waiting. We are promised that we're supposed to have a frequently asked questions document prior to January 1st. That'll be helpful to us. And based on this last time's Union article, it actually said a district making an assertion of corrective action by June of 2023, and the action doesn't have to be completed until 2025. That's new information, and please know I'm reporting from the Times-Union. I don't have that in regulation yet. But what the Regents Board did this week is they've released for public comment what that new regulation would look like in law. I know that I've already received communication from members of the community and graduates and currently enrolled. I think watching that guidance is the important part. Similar to other things, districts, there are thousands of things that we're required by law to do, and they're directly contingent on us receiving our state aid. There are consequences for not doing things, state and federal aid. So I think to watch how the regulations develop is the relevant thing. And then once we have good guidance, then we'll have a conversation as a community and decide what we're going to do next. Students unquestionably will be involved in that. That's one of the things that the Student Advisory Council, if I had allowed them to talk about it, we would have spent the whole 80 minutes talking about the mascot issue, because it's one that's very important to the students in the school. But I expect that by January we'll have more information.
Just curious. Go ahead. Out of curiosity, do we know how many districts in the state that affects?
60.
60.
And right now, some of the clarifying points that they've made is like a district like Shenandoah. I happen to be a graduate of there. Every one of their buildings is from the language of an indigenous people. They're not asking that names of buildings be changed. What they're really focused on is imagery and iconography and names that are potentially derogatory.
Okay.
So state ed is going to be publishing some frequently asked questions, or answers to frequently asked questions. Can we submit questions, or are they questions that they anticipate being asked?
I am sure they've been asked
Yeah.
a lot of
Is that what-
questions.
is that what-
They don't want to give us the answers, anything we want to know.
If it's like, I use the Department of Health as an example, which was a tough, very tough 2 years, right? Where an expectation about immunization or masks came out, and the regulation came out first, and then the fact came out 2 or 3 weeks later, trying to address people's, wow, this happened. I think what you'll see, and they would continue to update it. So I think what you'll see is an initial effort to answer the questions, and then
Are they soliciting questions though from
not, I
affected
don't,
districts?
oh, well, other than the regions right now who are soliciting questions about the regulation, I don't know
Okay.
if SED is soliciting.
Okay. I mean, obviously there's questions about the financial aspect of this.
True
which
also.
would be significant.
Yeah.
So guidance in that area would be helpful. I'm sure that you could come up with
Yeah.
a list of questions just on the financial aspects of this and
Right.
how some of the mechanics of that might work.
Agreed. The very preliminary thing is, we told you in 2001 to do it and you didn't. It's your fault. That was the first hint, because Commissioner Mills issued almost the exact same statement, and the tipping point, of course, if you were watching, was Cambridge and what happened in Cambridge.
I find it ironic that the state legislature is always very concerned about pushing unfunded mandates down on municipalities to the extent that they will go out of their way not to. There's language in countless legislation saying this shall not be construed as a mandate requiring local expenditures. This is an unfunded mandate being pushed down not by an elected body but by the state education department, which to the affected districts is going to have a significant impact. If you walk around the campus and look at some of the investments that we have in the imagery and the mascots and everything that would need to be redone, if it needs to be redone, it would be substantial. And that is, to me, it's quite ironic that the state goes to great lengths not to push those mandates down. And maybe they're not doing it. Maybe there'll be some funding available. That's
Yeah.
what we need to know.
We certainly will.
Well, the Cambridge thing is not a done deal. It's still in litigation, so that's something to keep an eye on. I was talking with somebody from up there the other day who says it's not over, they're still fighting.
Yeah. So I think as we wait, we will get better guidance to give us a framework by which we work in would be helpful. You know, people want to support both sides of the argument, and I think that we need the guardrails to know so you know we have a good path to follow in making decisions of what comes next. But I understand completely, and especially we're preparing a budget now. It won't be reflective of any of the things that they're asking us to do at this juncture. I'll let them wait on that.
Just one follow-up on that.
Yeah.
Within the affected district community, has there been any mention of perhaps legal challenges to this mandate that you're aware of?
No, other than we had our superintendent's meeting last Friday. We do a weekly Friday meeting for the 24 superintendents, all the Capital Region BOCES. And the BOCES superintendents in the state are half employed by New York State and half employed by the BOCES. So they are a direct conduit to the commissioner. And the guidance, the tentative guidance from the commissioner is to not imagine that this is something that will be easily challenged. That we were told in 2001 that we were supposed to do it. We just failed to adhere to it then. But like I said, there are thousands of things that schools are expected to do, and there are legal ramifications for many of them. So we'll have to see how this codifies. But no discussion yet about what the legal challenge would look like. And you saw, like, the day that it came out, some schools said, okay, we're going to take care of that. And others are remaining strategically silent, or they're asking good questions.
Right.
So, last thing I wanted to share is that I gave you a copy of some board goals. The board had a retreat in the past. What you see is a list of areas that the board considered working within. And the board at the time thought that oversight and looking at like what the responsibility of a board member is, this naturally fits under that. If you're thinking about hiring and evaluating a superintendent, establishing policy, and developing and approving of a budget, instruction is the outcome of everything that we do. It's the best thing that we have to offer to our community. They are our customers, and we're offering quality instruction to them. And then operations is the system by which, system within, we're able to offer it, and staff, of course, are the folks that are delivering it. So at the time, those are the three areas the board was interested in focusing on. I just wanted to share these with you for one, for your information, but also for you to consider how you want to proceed and move forward in identifying those that are most important now. You know, what do we believe are our priorities, considering the climate and conditions in our district now. We don't have to tackle it tonight, just to talk about like how you want to do that.
What is our time frame for this if we're not tackling it tonight, what is our proposed hope for?
So what I think is
course of
that,
this?
you know, we're going to, we'll bring it up in new business or put it into new business, and then, you know, discuss some kind of timeline as far as getting together, as far as discussing how we want to handle this, but at least getting it onto the agenda and how we're going to move forward with updating, this information and our goals and, how we're going to do it.
So we're just putting this out there today.
Yeah.
To then talk about how we're gonna talk about it next
Well,
time?
no, we can have a discussion on it, where we're gonna put it in new business. This is just something not Dr. Bailey gave us. I know that, we quickly kind of had a conversation, a little bit of information already, but at least getting it on our agenda. Usually when we're going to discuss goals, these things, like we're going to do this outside of a meeting. Like we're going to probably have a retreat, or we're gonna have to get together as a group and come up with some of these, updated things. I believe when we set these goals, I think there was only 2-3 of us, right? You and I did this, Tina, with Dr. Bailey.
We sat over in Becker and did it that
Yeah.
couple of days.
So we kind of broke it up in like a committee kind of thing, and only had 2 or 3 board members involved, and some administrators when we came up with our last set of goals as a group, and then discussed it as a group, and then came out with this document.
Was this
So,
after the workshop, or did we do this then the workshop?
I think what happened is, all board members, we had a conversation, answered a survey about what priorities and interests were, and then we had a discussion about it and created this list. And then, it was codified into the
Right.
graphic.
Okay.
And then that's what the small group did, we were looking at the graphic. So Teddy's right, it'd likely be in a workshop where you really have as much time as you need, you don't have to worry about other business, no decisions are made, it's just developing. And I think, goals are very frequently best multi-year as well. We have our buildings established with their targets and action plans. That gives us hard data that we want to use to help fulfill what we're doing for our overarching goals. And establish what those things are that are measurables for us. A lot of these are grand ideas. Educate our student population, that is true. Do we want to have that represented through advanced Regents diplomas? Do we want to have it through graduation rate? There are ways to identify that, and I think our building targets and action plans would help us, say, oh, that fits right in there. And then wherever maybe we don't have information, we have to figure out, where we wanted to, or how we wanted to measure that.
So Teddy, we're not discussing this till item 10, actually, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we
Right.
can discuss.
Yeah.
So we'll turn it over to Mr. Engelhardt.
So I did want to, again, bring attention to the work Carter did at A.W. Becker. Ms. Newbar asked that I bring it up, so we just wanted to recognize him. But then also some other students within our community are doing some incredible things. Too much to mention just tonight, so please go to our website and Facebook page. But I did want to mention Olivia Ortiz was accepted to the National Association of Music Education's All-Eastern Treble Choir. According to Ms. McLaughlin, as far as she knows, there's never been an RCS student accepted to that particular festival. So it's bigger than All-State, right, Dr.
Yeah.
Bailey?
It
He
used to
was-
be 14 states. So All-State is just New York and 14 states.
Huge accomplishment for her. Also wanted to recognize CJ Pitts-Conti was accepted to the Theater Honors event at Russell Sage College at their Theater Institute. It's a day worth of theater workshops that CJ gets to work with professionals. It's tuition free, so congratulations to CJ as well. And then also Miss Murphy shared something with administrators today that I just wanted to share. The New York State Public High School Athletic Association recognized 6 teams as fall 2022 RCS varsity scholar athlete teams, which means that they at least 75% of their roster had a 90 or above average academically. So the girls varsity soccer team, the boys varsity soccer team, the girls varsity volleyball, boys varsity golf, girls varsity swim and dive, and girls varsity tennis. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Very nice.
We'll put that under educate our student population.
There you go. And I was gonna say, this is such a dad joke. The therapy dogs is Dr. Bailey's pet project. We've been working, the attendance committee is a subcommittee of the district leadership team, and we work on policy, we also work on practice and procedures. The committee has been active the last couple of months, and we felt that we needed to bring awareness to what is chronic absenteeism and how it affects. Obviously, we are juggling the come to school unless you're sick type of tagline, but we did settle on something that we thought would be great as far as launching an attendance campaign. So we are going to do a poster contest. Huge shout out to our parent teacher organizations and associations. They are going to give some gift cards for prizes. I was able to, with Miss Echo, go to the A.W. Becker PTA last night, and they generously gave even more than we expected, so thank you so much. But our tagline is going to be an attendance hero. The hero stands for here, every day, ready, on time.
Unless you're sick.
Unless you're sick.
It's
Those
very
are those that
small.
say.
Yeah.
So we're going to push that out next week so parents can, if they want to, tell children to maybe get off electronics over the holiday break and work on their poster. That might be a good time. We're looking at mid-January for a date for those to come in around that.
It was lovely to have you guys at the PTA. I think
It was
people
great.
appreciated hearing it.
Good, and we would gladly come back. They had some great things going on at A.W. Becker, and I'm sure we're on the agenda for middle school next month, so it'll be great. December Concert Madness is we're halfway through. Tomorrow is A.W. Becker's grades 2 and 4. On Tuesday is 6th grade band, and then high school chorus and band on Wednesday, the 21st. And the high school band and chorus will be performing at the Plaza, if weather permits, 12 to 1 for those who are able to step down.
Outside?
No, they
No,
do right.
right in the
The
Plaza.
concourse?
And it echoes, it's
beautiful.
really, really cool.
There's a potential snow date for that if things don't go as planned, so.
Goodness. And then we are also doing the community hallelujah chorus as well. So for those who are, does anyone want to, the alumni come and join students and sing, or is it open to those who feel they can sing? That are part of the community members,
Absolutely.
like board members,
Yes.
if you want?
Sounds
Okay, I didn't know if you were hinting, like, I'd like to come.
It
I'd like
wasn't
to
your
come, but not as a
platform.
singer.
And then just lastly, we had to reschedule our last curriculum and instruction meeting, so we are looking at January 12th, and I did send out calendar invites for that as well.
I was to add one thing to what Fred described. Teddy called out the donations, the $2,000 from SABIC, $500, and there are other organizations that donate. The other end of that is we have dozens and dozens and dozens of staff in the district who dedicate, and they donate their own money as well. They dedicate their time now in the busiest time of year of most of our lives to make connections with families, to shop, and to provide a brighter holiday for the members of our community. And they do that with the backpack program too. It's an all volunteer program, and we're serving 65 families right now. So I can't say enough. And they do it for no praise at all. But we're very fortunate. We have very generous people that work here in our community.
And they do a nice job of reaching out to the community too, because I know some church organizations are assisting with that and some other businesses in the area.
Do we do something slightly bigger with the backpack program before a break?
They do. They usually put in additional food items. For younger students, as long as they know they have older siblings, they may do some preparation meals as well, but most of it is independent, so kids can utilize those. The one, and I have to double check, one break also put in things like additional books and things like that to, again, sustain the academic piece over break. And usually those families are also the ones who usually receive some of the holiday gifting as well.
Okay, and we will turn it over to Mrs. Sutherland.
Okay, so real quick, part of your packet included, if you look at this, it is the 2023-24 budget development calendar that I've been working on with Dr. Bailey, and actually send it out to Jesse so that he could review it too. So just real quick, if you look at today's date, I'm presenting the budget calendar. But you looked at days before that, that work is already starting at the building level, and at our directors, they're working on the needs for their programs that they have, as well as their buildings. So we will be having individual meetings in the next couple weeks to review what they are already starting to send to me. And then you will see in January, now at the board level, that in January you'll get a report on current enrollment, class size, and enrollment projections. And then in February, you will have a preliminary review of expected revenues and preliminary budget forecast, budget assumptions, and update on tax cap calculations. All of the other meetings you will see is really a generic title, and that is budget review and update. That's really gonna give Dr. Bailey time for Jesse to start. I'm hoping to do as much as I can to pass the baton, but at the same time, then Jesse's going to be picking that up and finishing, working on the budget with Dr. Bailey. So they will then have more, they will update this document with more specific, what dates are they gonna use and what exactly will be presented at each of those meetings. And then all of the other dates, they're all of the legal requirements that a school district needs to follow when things are filed, when things have to go to the newspaper. So this is a document in the now, right now, but obviously revisions will happen as we go along. So any questions on the budget calendar? Then real quick, just an update for buildings and grounds that Bill always shares with me. We've been talking about the pool forever. There are a few remaining items, and some of them are related to the pool heater installation, and that's set to happen now December 23rd. And they're hoping for the final door is expected at the end of December. Then a punch list will be created with the architects, and any of those items that are listed on the punch list will be set to be done. And then we've talked about the final thing needed will be the Department of Health will come in for their final inspection. So that's, Bill's been working very hard to get all of that accomplished. We also talked about exterior lighting, so that he had our electrician in, installed new floodlights at the front high school and new fixtures on the pole lights at the 9W entry for the campus. And he's received the warranty replacement fixtures for the front of the high school, and they will be installed as soon as possible. And then there have just begun some conversations with John Sharkey, the architect, on what additional lighting is needed that can be folded into the capital project. So he's on top of all of that, and you've heard me talk the last couple months about the electricity bid with the other school districts. There is finally a date, which is this Friday, and so we will be reviewing those bids and making decisions on Friday, and so we will let the board know what's happened after that. Okay?
Okay, thank you. New business, this is when we wanna add new, business items or other discussion or things we want to put on future agenda. So, I think one of the things that we wanna discuss,
Setting goals. First I have a concern in setting goals on like a retreat. I mean, that's board business, isn't it? I mean, I could be wrong, but isn't that supposed to be done in open meeting? That would be my first question.
There's always workshops in any public forum that can be done, supplement to a public. I think we should be discussing it when you land on something out in public, but a workshop is just that. It's to flush out ideas and pre-think it. So I don't know if
I
there's
was
really a role for
I was
that.
reading the material that we got, and if we're discussing individual things, that's one thing, but things and goals for the board, it says that's part of a public meeting. So I was just throwing that out there. We may want to look into that.
Workshops are public meetings.
Okay, so that answers my question.
Yeah, we would announce it, and
Yep.
there wouldn't be a, call to order and all the rest
Oh,
of it.
okay, so there. And then the second thing is setting goals. I mean, I read through this, but these are very, very generic goals. And I think that people elected us to find solutions and not just talk about issues. And I understand talking about issues leads to solutions, but at some point, I think we have to come up with solutions to hard problems and try things. And if they don't work, we learn that something didn't work. But there's a lot of things that we've talked about and talked about and talked about that have never materialized. There was a discussion around cell phones, and it was, well, maybe we could do that at a committee meeting at another time. We're now into December, there's been no committee meetings, and it's puts on the wayside. I think that we have to hold regular committee meetings, work as a board, try to solve problems. Instead of, a lot of times, it seems like we're just talking about issues, and then a couple months later, someone brings something else up. So I think we should set goals for the board, we should set goals for the district, and for the superintendent, and then see where they go. You know, we're into December already, and we're talking about meeting in January, maybe to start setting goals. I think we're a little behind the 8 ball. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see, you know, we have a budget development calendar here, so we have this calendar out also. You know, it's one thing to talk about setting goals, but it's another thing to actually put it on paper and have some milestones and deadlines. So I think it'll help to your point if you actually see what how the plan is going to play out, like when that meeting will be. The outcome of the workshop, I gather, would be some type of document that would be shared with the board as a whole, put on the agenda for a subsequent board meeting, subject to approval. If we kind of calendar that out a little bit, just so we're driving towards a set goal, I think that'd be helpful.
I mean, I think the thing we have to decipher, and I think that, you know, a retreat a lot of times is run by New York State School Board Association. They bring people in here and you run retreats and things, and they can probably break this down is, you know, what board goals are, you know, what the district's goals are, and what our involvement in those are, just like our building goals and other goals is, again, I think it comes back to what our role is and, you know, what types of things. We can go back to, you know, cell phone and policy. That's still a policy. We're not going to discuss that in a retreat. That's not going to be a goal. That's something that the people on the committee for policy need to set a meeting and have a discussion. That's where it goes. There's committees. That's where it is. That's not a goal for the board. So, I mean, we need to make sure that if we're going to set goals for the board, they're specific for the board and what our role is. We don't want to set, you know, Dr. Bailey's got to be involved or administrators have to be involved when it comes to district goals or his goals. So I think there's, you know, we aren't going to get into 4 different retreats. We have to have something specific to concentrate on, not, you know, different things. And that retreat, the whole board is a part of. You know, everybody has input. We come up with solutions together. And then, you know, that's what we kind of adopt. I'm not sure we make resolutions for our goals. I think it's just kind of guidelines that we follow. I mean, I'm not sure we've ever approved Board of Ed goals. You know, it's not a resolution that says, you know, the superintendent recommends something. This is just a guideline that the board's going to, you know, follow what we want to try to accomplish as a group. So I think that's what, you know, has to be defined of what we're looking for and what happens within the retreat. As far as setting this up, it's a matter of contacting somebody and getting a date that everyone wants to or can attend.
So who needs to be in charge of setting up that date?
Well,
Or who is in charge of setting up that date?
all of us are. It's sending an email and saying, can 9 of us accept this on January 10th? Have to contact, you know, if we're going to have somebody come in and do this retreat, we have to get dates from New York State, the school board members.
All 9 of us should email them to ask the dates? Or?
No.
No.
Okay.
I would email them and say, what dates do you have to come in and do a retreat about something specific? They would give us dates, and then we would have to see when we could get a majority of us, you know, make sure we get a majority of us that
So
can.
you can move forward
make
with
this.
sending that email, and then they will communicate with us to decide on a date.
Correct.
Didn't we have our council do a retreat too?
We
We've done that in the past.
we did a retreat where actually
School boards is hard to deal with sometimes. There's so few.
they may not have anybody to do it. They may recommend us to go somewhere else. I mean, they have different topics that they do retreats on. And yeah, I think the last time Ryan's firm did our retreat for us. And actually it was better than I think the retreat we had before from New York State. So I mean, there are other alternatives to look at, but I think if, you know, that's gonna be our priority is, you know, goals, then we want a retreat that's gonna be involved around that.
And really, when we first had this historically, the idea of the goals at the board level being very open as like the largest entry point of information was that each level under that gets a little bit more defined, a little more specific to support those overall goals. So they are by design supposed to be a little bit more, I don't wanna say vague, but open-ended. You know, a little bit more academic in nature, and then underneath the district, you get more and more specific as you get down to that building level or to that grade level even. And they each have their own ways of having those goals set each year under the guidance of different administrators to support the overall goals of the district.
So since they already have existing building goals, should we be building off of those goals? Each building has goals every month. The principal of the middle school reports out on the progress towards those goals. The same thing with elementary. The newsletter that just came out showed where they were and where they plan to be. So those goals already exist. It would be counterproductive, in my opinion, not to take those into consideration because
Well, they're based upon this foundation. So if we're gonna develop new ones, you'd say this would be for the beginning of 23-24 year. And then they would start those goals to support the new ones.
I mean, I
I'm
don't,
saying if we're gonna move forward with goals for this year, the building goals already exist and are being worked on and actively reported out by at least 2 of the schools I can account for.
I don't think, I guess we're not going to have specific, we're not going in a Board of Education and put, we want graduation rate to increase 2%. That's not, I mean, yes, ultimately it's our goal, but to be specific, that's going to fall within Dr. Bailey's goal or the high school's goals. I think ours is more, I think, like you said, it's more of a generic over.
And it's multi-year,
I'm not
so
disagreeing with
year
that.
1
Yeah.
might have a certain milestone to build upon year 2, year 3, and year 4, or however the timeline looks like. We're not looking to accomplish all of the goals that are lofty in year 1. You wanna stage it out and have achievable goals in bite sizes so that we have the best chance of success. You don't wanna put something in place that's unachievable.
It's almost like a 2, 3, 4. I mean, I think when we originally started this, it was a 5-year process, very similar to our capital improvement plan or building evaluation plan of establishing our goals.
So are we saying it's realistic to set goals for this current school year, or are we saying that we're gonna be setting goals for the next school year?
We're probably more realistic that it's going to be for the next 4 to 5 years. It's not going to be the specific year. These are, we're gonna establish goals, and we may say we establish these goals in 2023, but I don't think, we're not going to have specific goals in one school year. We're gonna have a
Okay.
bigger picture goal
So
as a
we
board.
could start working on it now, because if it's not
Good.
specific to a school year,
Absolutely.
there's no sense in dragging our heels and setting up a day and time for that to happen, right?
Well, we're gonna have somebody that's going to set that and start the process for us to do it as a board. We're not going to just set a date and us 9 go in there
Right,
and
but you
hash
said
this.
that you would be able to email the organization to set up the date.
Correct.
Okay.
You can see, and you read this document, obviously Dr. Bailey just handed this out. You can see there's not, like within these goals, when we established them, there's not a lot of time-bound goals. So, I mean, but you can also see there's more specific things that came out of the retreat when we did that. But some of those things are things that would be passed on to the building level or Dr. Bailey level.
As far as board goals go, I think that what I mean by that in setting goals is not necessarily something putting on the agenda and at the recommendation of the superintendent. Let me clarify what I'm talking about. It's great to say that's something that the committee meets, but the committees are not meeting. The committees are not meeting. The committees are established by the board. They're not meeting. There's a lot of things that could be done. I mean, our manual is 500 pages long. Some of those policies are 10, 15 years old. There's things that laws have changed. I mean, some sections, could be to review certain parts of the manual over this year, next year, that year, and see if there's any changes that are recommendations to be made. I mean, the cell phone thing, like you said, well, maybe that's a discussion where you invite the public and have input and things like that. And that's great, but here we are 5 months later, and nothing's happened. So I think about setting goals, it's like, okay, let's give ourselves a timeline and say, if this is something that is possible, well, let's talk about when we start doing it. I mean, that's what I mean by talking about it. I'm not saying put something on here like you said and that, it's just, I think there's things that if we don't give ourselves a timeline, it just seems on certain things to try to achieve, it just seems like they're getting dragged on and dragged on and dragged on. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that I think that we could do a better job.
But you're not discussing a goal. We're discussing goals. If you want to discuss policy, are you on the policy committee?
I'm not arguing with you.
We need there's two people on the policy committee.
Okay,
You have a discussion with Sue Starr. You can invite all the people in the public. Anybody can attend a policy meeting. We've been 4 or 5 months. Sue will get you any updates that we get from the state and have a discussion about a cell phone policy. It comes in the paper, but that's not a goal.
The goal would be to review it. To review
That's
the
done in policy. That's a committee.
There we've got our goal.
Which has not met.
Has not met, you're right.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to get.
I mean, do you want me to set a committee meeting for the members? I don't know what you're looking
That's
for.
what I'm saying. I'm saying that we could do a better job of talking about.
If you want a committee meeting, set a committee meeting. We're talking about board goals.
And that's not the purpose of what I'm saying. I just think we could do a better job of holding committee meetings. And I'm on one committee. I'm not the chair of that committee. So, and again, that's all fine and dandy. That's the first really I'm hearing about it. There was no orientation for new members. There really wasn't. So I'm just saying we could do a better job. And next year, if new members are voted on, I think that could be you want to say set a goal? We could make it a priority that we come up with we orientate new members coming in as outlined in our policy manual, which is there. There's things that we could do a better job on, is all I'm saying, Teddy. And I think that we should look into how to do that. That's it.
Sue can help with that as well, as like a triangulation point for bringing the committees together. If one of the members of any of the committees wants help with that, she'll just send out an email to whoever it is, where the group is, and try and nail down times to do that.
If 2 members can't make a committee meeting, the meeting can still happen. It's not like if one person attends, other on CNI.
Absolutely. That's all I was saying. I think with the other meetings, we could do a better job. That's
Right.
it.
So we can set up committee meetings, but as far as going back to the goals and setting this, I think we're going to start with a retreat, try to get a date, and make sure we can get attendance. And we'll put it on new business, and hopefully before the next meeting, we'll have a date established. Most likely, we try to shoot for Wednesday nights, considering we already booked Wednesday night, so hopefully everybody, I mean, it would just be a different Wednesday night, it wouldn't be a board meeting Wednesday night. So we'll add that. Huh?
That'd be a really long night.
Yes.
Other
Old
new
business
Teddy, what do we have, goals or workshop?
workshop is where we'll start.
Other new business. A while back, we spent a whole lot of time working on our branding, right? A ton of time working on our branding, what our logos were gonna look like, what our colors were gonna be, and everything else. And I've noticed lately, things just kinda gone awry. I went to, I don't remember which game it was the other night, it was one of the basketball games, and the team came out, and I swear they were wearing black. Black warm-ups, and they took them off, and if it was green, it was so dark, it still looked black. And just the fact that we spent that amount of time working on it, that we had it narrowed down to a numbered color, right? A green and gold.
Which vendors carried those colors?
Exactly, and then to have it just go out the window, people just ignored it. I mean, somebody said to me, "Where's Ravena?" And I guess they changed their mind now, so, but I think we went with like either Hunter or Forest Green, I don't remember which it was, because I don't remember the names. but they
Probably
had
the Hunter, yeah.
specific name and a specific gold, and now they're just kinda, I don't know who's doing the ordering, who's making the decisions.
It's the first time hearing of it, right, and
Okay.
depending on what the team is, there's a possibility that we didn't buy them, I don't know which team.
It was one of the basketball teams.
Then
I know
we probably did buy them.
We probably what?
We probably did buy them,
Yeah.
but that's the first time hearing of it. I don't know.
I just wanna throw that back out there, cause I know we spent a ton of time and energy on it, and then to have it be 2 years later, or 3 years later, whatever, out the window, and nobody pays attention to it, bugged me a little bit. And if we're gonna go through the whole branding thing again, probably, which, with this whole Indian thing, you know, we can't have people playing off the cuff and ordering new stuff that we don't have approved.
So what is the policy for how uniforms are ordered? Because there was a large issue surrounding the modified girls soccer uniforms.
They should all be done through the athletic director, which has been an issue because we changed athletic directors halfway into the first month.
Okay, but a team should have a matching uniform, and those girls on modified soccer did not have a matching uniform for the whole
So I'll make it even easier. I don't even think the varsity had matching uniforms.
Those
which-
pictures made it look like they did.
So it makes it concerning, correct. One, we have a new athletic director and she probably, had no idea when it started. I think the big thing is we have a chart that teams are supposed to get uniforms, brand new, every 4 years from modified JV varsity, all included, because in the past you used to hand uniforms down. And we agreed that every 4 years, modified JV varsity, all 3 of them would get new uniforms. Because then it allows kids to go from one team to the other and not have to worry about different uniforms. And also, after 4 years, uniforms are not worth, it used to be 5 years, I think we shortened it to 4.
Well, is the,
And I think that Jen, I don't know if Jen has a chart, I'm sure she can find it or get it. But I think soccer's probably, hopefully they're coming up by next year, because I know varsity did not have enough uniforms, and they didn't even have a JV team.
well, and the other concern is she aware of where these are being stored? Because the first thing that we were told for the modified soccer is that the uniforms were not to be found. And they were given really, really beat up softball uniforms. It wasn't even a jersey for the sport they were playing. So it was a very poor representation on the field of RCS. And it was disconcerting as a parent to think that that sport didn't matter enough to warrant even the appropriate sports
That's
jersey.
that's also a team that went through a coaching change at the same time.
Correct, but
Yeah.
I think there needs to be an overall policy of where they're kept. It can't be the coach takes it home for the season and it comes back and you don't know what you've gotten and it's been sitting in their basement and smells weird and whatever.
I'm sure, and that usually comes up at budget season where we're at with our chart, so, and having a new athletic director.
How is sizing done too? Because the sizing on those was pretty scattered. There
Yeah.
were some girls wearing some really big uniforms.
I am bravely putting uniform replacement plan back on old business all by myself.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because
But it's worth
they
reminding,
just-
it's
New
worth
What's the-
reminding.
Director and.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
surprising, because they
Can-
bought new uniforms for varsity basketball, but they didn't get them for modified and JV, which is not.
Is it appropriate to have the sports or the athletic director come so that they can be a part of the discussion and aware of what issues people in the community are seeing?
I'm sure Dr. Bailey can talk to her about it.
Would it be appropriate?
They
for her
usually
to
do come
attend?
during budget season,
Okay,
so,
that's kind of what I was asking.
to tell us the equivalent, yeah. But no, that's another thing, like I said, I know basketball, I don't know why the other teams didn't get new
I
uniforms,
know I
usually it's
personally
all
reached
of
out to her when the uniforms were not appropriate, and several other parents on the team did as well.
I actually think I did as well.
Is it within our bandwidth, I mean, I know, like, part of CNI is we discuss, like, the purchase of new books, or whatever the new
Yeah.
materials are. Is that a reasonable expectation that there's a review of what they're ordering for each team each year? So that there's a little bit of oversight, not just a coach or team's perception of what to do each season?
Not by us.
No,
Yeah,
not by
but
us.
The athletic director should be reviewing anything that comes up
Mhm.
from coaches.
Right.
And the kids should not be allowed to choose because, they choose whatever is the coolest thing at the
Or
moment,
even
but.
honestly, strong personality parents often sway some of those conversations, and we really need that to not happen.
Also, thicker white material for girls would be better. No, see,
What?
the white travel jerseys that they were supposed to wear were essentially see-through. So you're putting a bunch of 7th and 8th grade girls on a field with a bunch of see-through uniforms. It does not send a good message.
And they're gray after the first year anyway.
Well, then maybe it would be less see-through.
Really, it should be green and gold, and then we wouldn't have an issue, because those are our colors, white is
Correct.
not.
It was a white uniform that was very see-through. They, as a team, chose not to wear that jersey or those pants because they couldn't feel comfortable in it.
So we'll put that on old business, and I'm sure Dr. Bailey can get us some information even before budget season, even by next meeting.
Sounds good.
Good. CNI committee meeting from October 20th, meetings attached. No policy and adoptions. We do have hearings and petitions. So I'll just go through that spiel. Please limit your question or statement to 3 minutes so as to ensure sufficient time for all present to have the opportunity to speak. We ask that all comments be addressed to the board from the podium or microphone set up for use for the public. The limit to comments will be 3 minutes, and any topic which falls properly under executive session will not be discussed in public session. Mr. Robbins.
Boy, it's a good thing you guys don't allow firearms in a school district, because I'd have probably blown my brains out listening to that conversation for the last hour. I really came here to wish everybody Merry Christmas. Everybody in the audience, all you people up on the board. It was really great hearing about puppy dogs and uniforms and stuff like that. Little suggestion, when you go to set your goals, get a little input from the community. It's what I've been doing for quite a while now. And I came here to have you guys ask for the resignation of Dr. Bailey. I was actually involved in getting him hired as a superintendent here, and one of the biggest disappointments, I think, as a board member when I was on. I've only seen the district go backwards, and I'll be more specific. The bullying that's going on right now, I've had 3 customers in a row that live in Selkirk, Coeymans, and Ravena, and their children are being bullied. And it's not stopping, it's only gotten worse. There is no consequences to actions. Matter of fact, if you're a disruptive kid in class, you get rewarded with candy. We're teaching that white people are the only people that bully people out of social emotional learning, in case you want to know where that came from. Sort of sounds like CRT to me. I'm not a big believer in pointing fingers at a race or a gender or an age group for bullying. I think it could happen from anybody. I teach my kids to treat people like they want to be treated. I say Merry Christmas, not to indoctrinate you into Christianity, but to pass along some well-wishing for the holidays and you and your family. It comes from a place of my heart and from love. Little disturbed that kids are being told that it's got to be a winter tree, not a Christmas tree. We just had a Christmas concert or winter concert for the 5th grade. I want to say they did a great job. I think the kids did an awesome job. I think the teachers did an awesome job. I think the aides that were there did an awesome job. Mr. Jones did an awesome job. He was there. It was really nice. The kids just did great. It was an awesome time. Very positive. But I'm tired of hearing guidance counselors, hey, Billy, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an astronaut. Well, you might want to tone that down and be a little more realistic. Maybe a plumber or a carpenter. Really? Is that what your guidance counselor is supposed to tell you? When you ask for more work because you finished your stations in class, and you go, hey, can I do something else? Maybe where I'm lacking, or maybe you're challenging me more. No, you're actually being told to, hey, why don't you put the packet together for tomorrow's class and do my job for me? Or how's about, hey, my favorite animal is a sloth because they're lazy, and that's a good quality in life. Are these the things you want to be teaching your kids? Because I sure in hell don't. I had a lot of hope in that man, a lot of promise. And when I talk to people in the community, all I get is, our superintendent does not lead effectively, and I'm so glad my kids are out of that school. The number 1 and 2, hands down. So before you go to your little retreat or whatever, you might want to get the community to come in here and tell you what your problems really are. Because talking about dogs and uniforms doesn't mean diddly squat. I'm trying to.
Please wrap up your comments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in closing, speaking to the board, I respectfully request that you ask for a resignation from our superintendent, because the stuff that's going on is a reflection of leadership. Thank you very much. Good luck on your
Thank you. Upcoming activities, 12/26 to 1/2 is holiday recess. 12/26 and 1/2, the district office will be closed. Our special capital project vote will be in the high school gym on January 9th, and our next Board of Ed meeting will be January 11th. We do not need to go back into exec, do we? We kind of cover everything. I need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Engel, second. Mr. Benatti, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.